Before we dive into today's episode, I have something truly special to share. Next September, I'll be leading an intimate women's retreat through the south of France and northern Italy, and you're invited. Picture this: mornings exploring the colorful markets of the French Riviera, afternoons sipping wine, and a hotel view with golden Mediterranean sunsets. Whether you love photography, food, or just want to reconnect with your playful creative self, this trip is designed for you. Spots are limited, so if all this sounds like your kind of adventure, please visit tourwithabsolutely.com and look for the tour France and Italy with Crystal. You can also send me a message or check out the show notes. Hey guys, my name's Crystal Kenny, and I'm in love with creating. All things artistic and imagination involved. I'm an American girl who chased her creative dreams all the way to Paris, France, making a living using photography. This podcast takes you inside the stories of all the artsy folks I've met along the way and gives you that extra push to discover your creative gifts. The desire to create is deeply inside each and every one of us, and I give you the tools and inspiration to find a new way of living a more creative life. This is La Vie Creative, the podcast. Welcome to the show, Michele. It's so nice to speak to a fellow American living in France.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here with you.
So I want to talk a little bit about your journey from the States to France. What brought you here?
So I've lived in France for 20 years now, actually. I was living in New York where my now husband and I met, and he's French and American, and we came here for, we thought, a year or two, and we've stayed ever since.
That's usually how it works. You think you're coming for a year, and then things happen.
Exactly, life, but in a good way.
In a good way, yeah, a very good way. I mean, you have some upcoming exciting things going on with your artwork, but let's talk a little bit about your work. You could describe yourself as working with textile collage. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I work with photography and I work with textiles. I use really almost exclusively old bed linens. I find they're such a powerful, interesting objects just to begin with. They used to be something that we'd keep, like it would just be this precious item. And now, you know, it's no longer felt that way, but it'd be something that one would keep for their entire life and mend. So I look for these really old, beautiful bed sheets. And then I print my photographs on them and then stitch over the photographs. And there's lots of process that goes into it to make sure the dye binds to the fabric and stays onto the fabric as well. And so what I do is really, I print over lots of little tiny pieces of fabric that I then I broider together to make, I like to say it's like a patchwork, and becomes one large work.
That's beautiful. And how did you start with these mediums? Like, this is such a fascinating way to create these works. Like, how did you even decide you wanted to start doing that?
It came, to be honest, it became out of necessity. So I was living in the 18th at a very small apartment, and I had two little kids. I now have three, but I had two little kids at the time, and I needed to make art, and I was trying to like figure out how I could do that. And so it started with just sort of punching holes in paper, because that I could do without making a mess. And then I started sort of adding thread and stitching into paper. And it kind of grew from there. I did a residency with an artist, a British artist who lives in France, Val Holmes, and she showed me how to use the sewing machine to do free motion embroidery, and it sort of just blew up from there. The ideas and it really came out of this like need to, being in a small space, not a lot of time. How can I do this and still make work?
I love that. And where do you find these like vintage bed sheets? I mean, we're in France, so they do have a lot of beautiful old things here, but do you have to go to the flea markets, or how do you find them?
Yeah. So, sometimes I will go to like Emmaüs or on the Bon Coin, but now I've been working with these for so long that often it'll be friends who are cleaning out their grandmother, their mother's house, or neighbors or family members, sort of that pass things on to me. So a lot of times, and those are the ones that are really special too, because it's like it has a personal touch. They're coming from, and it comes often, it's women who are cleaning out their, friends of mine that are cleaning out closets and saying, this is so important, but what am I going to do with it? No one wants to sleep in these scratchy sheets anymore.
Yeah, and you're going to create beautiful art out of them. That's what's going to happen to them. And talk a little bit about some of your work. Like, how do you choose what you're going to stitch, which photographs to use? Like, what inspires your work?
Right. So my work is really about memory and identity. And so I've been working a lot with flowers lately, because there's something that it's about, how to say, what we preserve and what we let go of and how we create memories and meaning to things. And so I use them. I work with flowers that grow in my garden, that I cut and I photograph, and then I do a lot of work with them to come up with the composition and then stitch onto the bed sheet. Did I answer your question?
Definitely. No, I mean, it's hard to choose and with the flowers and, there's so many things to think about when you're coming up with a new piece. And describe like your typical day in the studio. What does that look like for you?
So I usually get into the studio around 9:30. I'll spend some time catching up on emails like everyone else and doing admin tasks that need to get done. Then I usually work in sort of series. So I'll spend like a day photographing maybe, and it'll actually be like a couple days photographing the flowers. And then often I'll make bouquets and I leave them to wilt. And so maybe I'll be going back and rephotographing ones from like the week before that are really looking kind of droopy and sadder. And so I'll spend time photographing, and then I might spend time cutting up the bed sheets. So it's really not my least favorite part, but ironing. I spend a lot of time ironing the bed sheets to get them flat, and so that I can put them through a printer and print the images onto them. I might spend time, editing the photographs, or after I print the images onto the bed sheets, I put a wax over them to set the dye. And so then I might be painting them with wax. And so I will have different projects going at different times. And then it depends. And I might be working on a bit of everything. And then the last bit is usually the stitching. And in that case, what I do is I just have piles of threads, and it's almost like painting. Like I pick the colors based on the colors in the image. And so then I start layering on layers of thread to build up the surface. And the best way to describe it is like painting to me with thread.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, there's so many steps. There's so much time and effort that goes into each piece. Like, how long does it take you to do one piece?
It's always people ask me that. And one of the challenges is because I'll work on so many at the same time. So I never would like just take one picture and just continue the whole time. So it's really hard to say. Sometimes they can take me months. Sometimes they can take me, it really depends. But it's hard because it has so many different bits to it. I don't know, because yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like changing channels on the TV. You're always changing pieces and working on different parts of
I might finish 3 in the same day, right? But I didn't actually even start them on the same day.
So talk a little bit about the constraints, like material limits or time. How does that shape your creativity?
So usually, this is an interesting question. Sometimes when I get really blocked, I love a good constraint. I actually like that. I will give them myself these sort of things, like what came out of living in a tiny apartment and not being able to paint and, be able to be messy turned into, okay, I'm going to start using thread because that's a little bit tidier. So sometimes I'll be like, okay, I have to only work with, this color, or I need to only work with these two figures and see how far I can take that, and what I can do with that. So, I like a good constraint because I think it pushes my creativity to come up with new solutions, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's all about finding solutions, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then, I mean, I always have, never enough space, but I have a nice studio space, but I could always use 3 times as much space. I think that's every artist dreams of. You can never have enough room. And just, yeah, there's always, different things that come up, and I have to, I'm like, okay, how am I going to solve this problem?
Yeah, it's all problem solving. I know everybody wants like a little studio. My husband, he likes to paint, and he's looking for a studio on the 18th. That's like so impossible to find something.
Right?
Oh my gosh. So talk a little bit about how your work is received in France versus the US.
So when I started showing this work, it's really been interesting. In the beginning, it was show. There was a bigger audience in the US and in the UK. I think the wave of fiber art had already started to happen there, and in France, people were a little bit, I'd say like I think 8 years ago or so, they were just a little bit unsure of what I was doing. I wasn't a painter, I wasn't a photographer, I wasn't a sculptor. I didn't fit into the box so easily, and they were. I think here there's a long history of couture, embroidery, and it was a little bit confusing, and then sort of the wave kind of came to France, and now I feel like it's really, people recognize what I'm doing and understand what I'm doing, and it's been really nice actually to be here and be able to welcome people to my studio and show my work here.
Definitely. Yeah, people have to like understand it, and then they can like be supportive in a way. They're like, wait a minute, what is she doing?
Right? Isn't that funny?
Yeah, it definitely takes time. And talk about some of the places that fuel your creativity or inspire new ideas when you're in Sèvres, when you're in Paris. What are some of your favorite spots to get inspired?
So I go often to the Parc de Saint-Cloud, which is right behind my house, or not far. It's a walking distance from my house. And so I spend a lot of time walking around the park. I find nature to be, at the moment, a place that I turn to for inspiration. And otherwise, my own garden as well is a place where I go. If I'm feeling very blocked, obviously I go into Paris I'm talking with my hands, and I just like hit the table. That's why that little ring was, but you can't see me because this is all audio.
Very Italian of you.
Right? So I'll go into Paris to go see the museums and visit galleries and such.
Definitely. There's endless supply of inspiration around us, and talk about how being part of the Paris art scene has affected your evolution as an artist.
I am part of the scene, and I also feel sometimes not part of the scene. I'll be honest, I have kids, and it's being a mom takes up a lot of time, so I don't always able to go to openings in the evenings. I can't always be there, in those sort of environments, and so I don't always take part as much as I think I wish I could, and I will someday. But I feel lucky that I've made connections, and I have friends, and I have a support group, and I work with some really lovely galleries here that understand my limits and are really supportive. If that makes sense.
Definitely. Yeah. No, having 3 kids and work, there's a lot going on. So you got to make time where there is time.
Right. And so, yeah, So I work with galleries that are really supportive of that and understand, and, I just can, work around my schedule and what I need to get done.
Talk a little bit about some of the challenges and joys of building a creative career as an expat in France.
Of building as an expat in France. I think that this is so there's a couple things I guess I could say about, I feel like my color palette is heavily influenced by being in France, and I don't know, like, it's not intentional, but I always wonder, like, if I went to Mexico or Miami, like, if I had lived in somewhere that had, like, a different kind of palette, I wonder how that would affect my work and what kind of work I would make and if it would change it. Does that make sense?
Definitely. I think more like colorful, like France can be kind of neutral in coloring.
Yeah, I do. And I think I just gravitate to these sort of more neutral, like really like soft greens, soft pinks, it just feels really natural to me. And I think I'm influenced that way by being here. I think I also kind of, this whole looking at identity and this idea of what it means to be, I have this garden that I'm always struggling with. I didn't plan it. It was planted by the woman that lived here before me, who was French and very, it's a very formal garden. And I'm always sort of struggling, bringing these flowers in, and sort of, it's about my own identity of how do I fit, and this sort of feeling like I've got to keep this going, and yet it's sort of not thriving sometimes in this tension. And I find that to be an interesting metaphor of what it's like to be here sometimes, of like, okay, I fit, I don't fit, where do I, how does this work?
You are the garden. Yeah. You're like, okay, it was already here and I'm trying to adapt to it.
Right.
And you've received some impressive honors like the Innovative Technique Award. So, how do these recognitions impact your momentum or motivation?
Um, I mean, it's always lovely, isn't it, to get those and to feel it's a validation and a recognition is always really nice. Um, and so, yeah, I'm not sure how I'm sure it helped people find me and discover my work, which is always lovely. But I guess personally, it kind of just says, okay, I'm on the right track here. There's something's working. Because sometimes when you're an artist, I think it's different from some of the other arts, because we really are just in our studios, and I'm working by myself a lot. And, especially like on the build up to a show, it feels very much like in my head. And so it's always nice to get that sort of like, okay, I'm going to keep going. I'm not just here in my head going crazy.
And how do you move past that imposter syndrome?
I think I'm not sure you ever move past it. You sort of just say, okay, well, I feel this way. I know this is, going to happen. And you have to just keep going no matter what, don't you?
Yeah.
I don't know. But I think it just is part of the process. I've come to recognize, and I sort of will even lean on it to say, okay, this is just going to push me to be better and to work harder and to keep going. But knowing that, okay, it's still, when it makes me uncomfortable, I'm like, oh, this isn't going well, or, oh, just kind of lean into it and accept it as what, just part of it.
Yeah. Discomfort is comfort.
Yeah. I mean, it's not comfort, but it just, I don't know. There's nowhere for me it's just part of it. I don't think it'll ever go away. I don't know.
And your work's been published in multiple books, multiple galleries. How do you balance commercial gallery work with experimental play in the studio?
Oh, that's such a good question. That is the question, isn't it? It's challenging, but I often will have maybe a deadline that I have to work towards. I have a show coming up. And so I'll make the base knowing, okay, I know what the commercial galleries maybe are interested in. I know what the collectors are used to. I know where they're coming to see the work that they're expecting. And then I'll play on when I have extra time, or I will just keep exploring. And the funny thing is when sometimes it doesn't lead anywhere, and sometimes it'll lead to something new that people will really respond to. Right now I'm trying to think about objects and how they want to move, which sounds so vague. But it's where I'm at, and I'm almost thinking I might be moving into like sculpture somehow. I'm not sure, putting fabric onto objects. I'm still figuring it out. And the truth is, it may never see, no one may never see it. But I have to sort of tug at this and figure it out. I've been trying to teach myself how to use power tools. I'm not sure if I'm, if it's, I may never show it to anyone, but this is part of for me, I need to just keep moving forward, if that makes sense.
I love that. Like, yeah, you might not show it to anybody, but you're trying it out.
It's the best part of being an artist sometimes, is that like you're just kind of scratching until you go, oh wow, I think I might be on this might be good.
Yeah. It's just about playing, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I have to get, there'll be things that I have to do, and I know I have a deadline, and I have, they want this, the gallery asked for this many pieces, and I got to make sure I hit those. But in between is where it's nice to play as well. Both are good. It's just sort of, it's a different kind of work. And that's the balance that you're asking about, is like okay, how do I still be creative when I know that I have to deliver something, and then finding ways to reinterpret and go deeper into works that I've already series that I've already started, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's like forced creativity. You're like, oh, but yeah, I have to do it this way for them, or I have to produce this much, or I might not be in the mood,
I've always I try to just, even when I'm not in the mood, I'm like, oh, I don't feel it. I still try to force myself every day to like go and make something, knowing that it probably won't work. It can potentially be very bad, but that's okay. That's, you have to do that. You have to get through it and keep going. At least I do. That's how I work, is just keep making.
And do you see collage as a kind of visual storytelling? What stories are you trying to tell, if so?
I mean, the collage part is almost like, it's been evolving slowly. So in the beginning, I was actually working a lot with paper, and I have a whole series for There She Was that's about like, it's where these female figures are collaged onto fabric and stitched over, and now it's really about putting all the pieces of the fabric together and then almost like mending them and bringing it into one piece. But there's always this notion of the pieces that are kind of blending and coming together to form a composition. Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely. There's a lot going on.
Okay.
And talk a little bit about the advice you would give to an artist hoping to build an international presence like you've done, but still staying grounded in your own creative language. So how would you advise other artists who want to become international but still stay true to themselves?
Yeah. I mean, first, I would always ask. So I have mentored other artists before, and this is a question that we've talked about. I often push to be intentional about what you want to do, and really ask yourself, why is it so important to be international, and what is your real goals? And is that really even the career you really want? Because it comes with just complications to it in reality, right? When you're dealing with multiple currencies, your price lists are on all different currencies. You're dealing with shipping and customs and language barriers, and so it's not for everyone. Does that make sense? And so I often say that would be my first question: is this really what you want to do? And then if you do, it just takes time and patience to sort of build up that reputation, and for people, the galleries, to find you, and also for you to find the right people to work with. It's kind of it's a partnership in many ways. So you have to make sure that you fit in with what they're showing, and they want to make sure that you are the right fit as well. Have I answered the question?
Yeah, definitely. You have to like think about if it's really for you. Do you want to deal with all that?
Yeah. And because I think there's like this idea, oh, that's what I want to do. And I'm like, what is it though? Like it might not, it's okay if it's not as well.
Yeah.
I think that one of the things I've learned over the years is that there's many ways to define success when you're in a creative career. And so that you need to be aware of that and think about what is really important and how do you define that.
What does success look like for you today?
Oh gosh, that's such a big question, isn't it? I feel like I have a lot of success in my life that's beyond, my family, my friends, and my career. There's lots of places where I define success. I'm quite proud of where my art career is at the moment. I just did Art Paris. That was really fun and successful. I have a solo show coming up in Geneva in September that I'm working towards, and a number of other fairs coming up. So I feel, I feel like I'm in a good place.
And how did you first start getting connected to galleries? Like, how did that happen? Because I know so many artists want to be, but like, how does that start?
How did it start? I think some of the first one is I was written about on like an art review. It was The Jealous Curator, which I don't even know if she still does. She had a blog and she wrote a review and she posted about my work. And then I got contacted by a gallery. And then it's sort of just like I would show with somebody and then somebody else would see my work. And a lot of it came through Instagram as well. It's a little bit harder to get found now, but then like someone would see it and then they'd write to me and say, oh, I'm doing a group show. Would you be interested in showing? And then someone else would see my work and it sort of just grew that way, kind of organically.
Yeah. It's one thing leads to another.
Yeah, absolutely.
And can you share a piece of creative advice that stuck with you over the years?
A piece of creative advice that stuck with me over the years. Sure. Let me turn it around. Do you have a piece of creative advice that stuck with you?
Oh, definitely.
That's a really hard question. So I'm like, let me hear yours and let me see if I can come up with mine.
No, I mean, for me, I think it's kind of what you said earlier. It's about just sticking with it and figuring things out. Because I mean, even I'm a full-time photographer. And when I first started that business, people are like, you won't make money. You won't have clients. You won't. I mean, even today, every client asks me, oh, is this all you do? I mean, I'm sure you get that too. And it's like, yeah, this is my job. This is my career. And I think some people find it unbelievable because they're like, really? You can do art full time, So I think it's just about sticking through and really committing if that's what you want to do.
Absolutely. And that, which makes me think of, there's years ago, I read this book that was called The War of Art. It's like a little book. And I don't remember everything in it, but there's one thing that stuck with me was that he was like, if you're going to be a professional artist, I think he was a writer actually though. He's like, you have to sit down and do the work every day, even when you feel uninspired, even when you feel not creative. You have to sit down and just, in his case it was right, but in my case I internalized like I just have to sit down and make art, because if I don't do that then I won't have any art. And so I have to, even though I'm like, okay, I don't feel inspired, I don't know where I'm going with this, I'm a little bit lost, I force myself to push through it and just keep sitting down and making things.
Definitely. Yeah, it's about showing up. I mean, which is true with a lot of things in life.
Exactly. Yeah, I guess so.
And what's new for 2025? You got some shows coming up. Talk about your projects.
Thank you. Yeah, I have in June, July, and August, I'm going to be in a group show at Studio Ashby with the Galerie Amélie de Chalard, who I work with here in Paris. They're taking me there. And then in September, I'll be at Art on Paper in New York. And then I have a solo show in mid-September that's in Geneva at the Salon Vert. And then I'm sure there'll be something in December. There usually are some group shows that come up. And then in January as well, I'll be at Amélie de Chalard in New York in a group show. So a bit.
Fabulous. You're going to be a busy woman. And where can people connect with you and learn more about your work?
They can connect with me through Instagram. Is always a good place to find me, Michele Landel. And otherwise on my website, which is the same, michellandel.com. And
my favorite question to ask guests is, how would you define creativity in your own words?
Oh my gosh. I've listened to many of your podcasts, and so many people have given so many good answers. And I was like, what can I say that's going to be different? And so for me, creativity is about that like original idea, but then it's about figuring out how to solve the problem of how to make it happen. A lot of my creativity comes from that problem solving.
So we need obstacles to be creative.
They help sometimes. They're not there. I mean, it's best if you don't, but they're okay when you do.
Yeah. They're here to help to get our brain thinking. Well, thank you so much, Michele. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. And we will share all of those links in the show notes so you guys can connect with Michele.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much for tuning in to La Vie Creative. You can find more information on MissParisPhoto.com. And if you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word for all my creative guests. We have the power to help them to keep doing what they love. See you next time.